Hello everyone, Dr. Chip here. I have a PowerPoint presentation. I gave a long presentation to, I believe, over 100 doctors around that number where I work last July, and I've given this talk to nurses, and I'm going to do in 5 parts on my locals channel. There's a lot to absorb, and I can take my time here, so today we'll just do one part. So I'll go to the PowerPoint presentation and go through it slowly and give you time to digest afterwards before we get on to part 2 and on. Okay, today's talk is on stress. Well, first of all, yeah, I am a doctor, 35 years experience practicing medicine. Um, there's something called the art of medicine, which is listening to patients, addressing their concerns. That's, I think, largely lost with today's doctors. They're more concerned about um, what they're supposed to be doing. Let's treat your arm. Rather than address the patient's concerns first so that they can actually listen and digest what the doctor has to say. Um, but I do have a lot of experience. So, with the art of medicine, people often will open up about their biggest fear or what's going on surrounding, say, they need a hip operation. Also, I have 8 years experience working with veterans. A lot of the veterans have PTSD. And so I got to witness that firsthand. I've had personal contact with doctors, therapists, counselors, ministers. I've gone through several books about stress. Authors like Bessel van der Kolk, PhD, or excuse me, MD, psychiatrist that I'll show you some information from today. Also other authors like Gabor Mate, MD, one of my favorite authors. I've talked to the chaplain at the VA where I work, who said that 88% of the veterans failed the psychiatric and psychological approaches. And if they do fail, then and want to go on, they're sent to the chaplain service to try and overcome their PTSD. I also have my own personal experience overcoming stress. I used to panic. I used to get up early in the morning, have trouble sleeping in the middle of the night. Would get all caught up in the thoughts in my head, worry about the next day. And I had a lot of anger problems too. I was very passive aggressive. And I've overcome stress, and I have that experience to share. Anyway, I have a better understanding of stress now, and I'm going to share it in 5 parts. And if you're stressed out over the pandemic, or stressed out over your home life or your job, it's possible to overcome it. And if you're seeking that, or if you're looking for that, I can point you in the right direction. Stress is real. There are real consequences of stress. People are committing suicide at a very high rate in our country. 22 veterans a day. Teenage suicide, dramatically increasing. Teenagers committing suicide over some social media post. The stress is real. Stress, causes things like cancer, well, at least contributes. In 1971, 50 years ago, cancer was 1 in 30 people in the United States, and President Nixon said that's far too many, so we'll declare the war on cancer and throw a bunch of money at it. And in 50 years, we now have an incidence of cancer 1 in 2 in men and 1 in 2.7 women before they die are diagnosed with cancer. So cancer, is dramatically increased despite all the money that's being thrown at it, all the medical research, all the medical treatments. they're just not working. We don't have really an opiate crisis. The war on drugs is not the answer. Opiates are the temporary answer to stress. And taking away the drugs, the addict is just going to find something else to fill in for the opiates. What we really have is a stress crisis. The stress is out of control in our country, in our homes, at workplaces. And I hope to give you a better understanding so that you won't have stress in your life anymore, or at least you'll understand what's going on when it happens to you or in your workplace or at your home. Stress is so ubiquitous that they now have combat stress control units in the military. These guys go into combat just to deal with the young soldiers who panic under fire. And the few stories that veterans were willing to share with me, I'm surprised that not everybody had PTSD. The horrible things that happen in combat. But these guys are there, this 113th Medical Detachment, Combat Stress Control, there in California. This was a veteran who let me take a picture of his t-shirt. And they're there just to help with the stress, to get somebody to not freeze or not run, which would put them in more danger. And stress has consequences. It's destructive. It robs people of peace in their life. It also leads to harmful changes in our body. And in a subsequent talk, we'll go into that in more detail, exactly how that happens, so you can understand it better. The desire for no stress, for peace in someone's life is what leads to things like substance abuse. And I'm not talking about just heroin and cocaine. How about sugar? Mark Hyman, MD, says that sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. And how about coffee? The Dunkin' Donuts slogan, must, period, have, period, coffee, period. Keeping yourself busy. These are all things, to try and manage stress. Worst of all, most people are unaware that when someone is stressed out, they're controlled by whoever triggers the stress. A child knows how to, quote unquote, push my buttons. Yeah, so they can get what they want. And we're also controlled by whomever or whatever gives us a few moments of relief. Whether it's alcohol or exercise, working out hard. So I have a 5-part series to give us a better understanding of stress. Today is what is stress? It's not what most people think it is. And then consequences of stress will be the second talk, which I mentioned a little bit about already. Third, the source of stress. Where does stress come from? I think will surprise most people. And then managing stress, most people know about that, whether it's yoga, breathing techniques, alcohol, whatever, sugar. And lastly, overcoming stress. I don't think most people really believe that they can overcome stress, but it is possible. And I hope to lead those people that are seeking that in the right direction. Okay, so this is part 1. Stress is not what you think it is. So, think about it. What do you think stress is? Most people would answer me in the talks I've given to nurses or to the doctors. Stress is my job. Stress is when I get upset, and then I'll say, well, what does stress feel like? And then we start to narrow it down because then I've heard comments like, stress is when I get angry at my husband. Stress is when I can't sleep at night. Anxiety. And that's really closer to what stress is. Anyway, I'm going to answer what is stress and what does stress look like in this talk. And we're going to do most of the science from The Body Keeps the Score. Bessel van der Kolk, MD, is a psychiatrist with 30 years of research experience on PTSD. And he wrote a book about it. It's fabulous. If you want detailed information, I encourage you to go read it. I think it's readable. I don't think you have to be a doctor to read it. It really explains what PTSD is, what's going on in the body under stress. So Bessel van der Kolk started with monkey research before they started doing research with humans. And what they did with the monkeys is they put them in a room and they did something threatening. Say put a big stuffed animal in there that looks like a lion or something that's going to eat them. And then they watched how the monkeys behaved. And so what do you think the first thing is that a monkey does when he's threatened? Everybody gets this wrong. Everybody says, oh, he raises the fur in the back of his back, or growls, or looks for a place to run away, goes and hides, fight or flight. But that's not what the first response is for an animal, for a primate, like monkeys or humans. So what do they do first when they're threatened? The first thing they do is look for social support. And I'll show you pictures of that. If there's no social support, there's an emotional reaction, anger or fear, the fight or flight reaction. And then thirdly, Bessel van der Kolk found out that if there was no escape and the threat was too big to fight, that the monkey would collapse. And this is what it looks like. The monkey on the left is looking for social support. He is relaxed. He's not stressed out. And the monkey in the middle, anger, fight or flight, teeth bared. And if the threat's too big to fight, then fear, run away, try and escape. And then the third monkey on the right is when the monkey sees there's no place to escape and the threat is too big to fight. And then the monkey collapses. And when the monkey collapses, feels no pain. It's like, go ahead and kill me. At least I won't feel the pain. And those, Bessel van der Kolk found out that those were three parts of the brain. The social engagement system first, which was the vagal ventral complex. It's down in the brainstem. The emotional brain, kind of the middle brain, where people call it the limbic system, where the emotions light up. The amygdala, I think, is the source of fear. And then collapse is the dorsal vagal complex, way in the back here, kind of at ear level. So Bessel van der Kolk took human beings and started to map the brain on functional MRI. Different parts of the brain would light up depending on what people were looking for. And they found that there was a thinking brain, a three-part brain. The prefrontal cortex, an emotional brain kind of in the middle, and then a functional brain, which is lower, the brainstem, basic housekeeping. And the idea was that reptiles, the reptilian brain, all they have is the lower brain, and then the emotional brain is present in primates like monkeys and humans. And then the cortical cortex, a highly developed cortex, only present in humans. like the prefrontal cortex, to think about things. When we're in the lower functioning brain, the brain transmits relaxation impulses. All is well. Digestion, sleep, mating activities. You relax just taking on the day. You're in the lower, reptilian brain. The ventral vagal complex. So what happens if there's a threat? A noise, text message. The natural response is to look for social support. And a lot of times people go from that lower functioning brain, everything's okay, up into the thought brain. How am I going to take care of this threat? I'm going to be late getting out from work and I need somebody to pick up my child, and I'll call my mother, see if she can pick her up. That kind of thinking part. But if there's no social support, mom doesn't answer, then most people react emotionally to the threat. They get afraid, get anxious. Oh no, what am I going to do? I'm stuck here. There's no way out. And usually it's anger. Why didn't she pick up? Or fear. I'll get fired. And the stress occurs in that middle emotional brain. So there's a stress cascade in the brain that Bessel van der Kolk researched and found that was present in the monkeys and the humans. If you're relaxed, just going about your day, dealing with life's issues as they come to you, you're in the functioning brain, vagal ventral complex. Everything is working. And if we react to a threat, other parts of the brain will light up. Initially, the prefrontal cortex, where the thoughts occur. The peaceful day is interrupted, and then we overreact if there's no social support, and the emotional brain or the limbic system lights up. That's where the stress is. That's when people start to feel stress, when that part of the brain is working, and it's either fear or anger. And then if the stress is overwhelming, the dorsal vagal complex lights up, which is lower but in the back. And they found that when that lit up, that's when people had PTSD, like the veterans. That it was a collapse state, like the monkey that collapsed, like, go ahead and, the stress is too big for me. Go ahead and kill me, and at least I won't feel the pain. So it's an escape route from the pain of the emotional response to life. The problem being, although the person doesn't feel the pain, they can't deal with life. They don't know how to manage even the basic parts of their life. And a lot of the veterans with PTSD had caregivers to make their decisions. Went everywhere with them, and did everything for them. They could not function. So stress is the middle monkey, middle response. It's the emotional response, anger or fear. It's possible to overcome stress, and if you're looking for an answer to overcoming stress, not just managing it, not just relaxation exercises like yoga or breathing techniques, but actually overcoming it, having no stress. You can start today. Remember, stress is an emotional reaction. Stress is anger or fear. That's all you need to get out of today's talk. Stress is on the inside. It's in the brain. It's not our job. It's not our boss. It's not our spouse. It's not the kids. So start by going inside. That's where the stress is. Change the focus. And just when you have time to reflect, or you sit quietly, eyes closed, or maybe you can't sleep at night and you're just pondering over it. Just see, is it true that you have stress? That you have anger response or fear response in your life. Even if you use words like I get frustrated, or I get impatient, or I can't sleep at night, that's stress. And just recognize and say, if you can just at least say, wow, I have stress. That's enough for now. We need time to digest. And so I'm not going to do really much more here other than wrap it up. But I just want people to know at the end of this talk that stress is an emotional reaction to a threat, and that it's anger and fear, and that it's a real thing inside the brain, and that it's important to have self-knowledge, to understand, to know ourself, in order to be able to not just understand stress, but overcome it. So this was the first part of a 5-part series. Today I showed you what stress is. Then we'll do the consequences of stress next. Then the source of stress. Most people don't know where stress comes from. And then managing stress. Most people know things like relaxation exercises, breathing techniques. So that will be familiar to a lot of people. And then finally, overcoming stress, which very few people have done in my experience, but which I discovered and which happened to me, and I'll be able to share that with you. The consequences of stress, which is next. The stress affects not just spiritual wellness. It's not just inability to sleep, but affects physical wellness. All diseases are contributed to, if not caused by, stress. Even cancer, even the number one killers, cancer, heart disease. So that's the end of the talk. And I hope you have a little better understanding of stress. I hope I haven't given you too much to consider. And it's my hope that you'll sit quietly or take some time to reflect and really look at what's going on inside and how you respond to threat. And watch other people and see how they respond and what they say. And get to know, how ubiquitous stress is. It's everywhere. And get a better understanding of what it is, and that it's real, it's everywhere, and that it has consequences. And then next time we'll talk about the consequences. All right, well, thanks for listening, and Dr. Chip Abrahamson at locals.com, drchipabrahamson.locals.com. I'll see you next time.